Listen up. The voice of the Rainbow Nation.
Wow, cool.
2000 FM.
A very interesting initiative was launched recently at the SA Education Week, and actually really ties in with what we're talking about right now with the CEO of the Law Society. The Center for Education Innovations South Africa is one of 3 global education hubs that are working to increase access to quality, affordable and equitable education for the world's poor. And this they hope to do by showcasing and amplifying non-state programs. These would be, the kind of initiatives that are implemented by NGOs, by social enterprises, by companies, government partnerships. And these are the kind of initiatives that have the potential to drive learning in poor communities. It will be housed at the Bertha Center for Social Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the UCT Graduate School of Business. And to talk to us about this interesting initiative is Mr. Francois Bonnici. Good evening, Dr. Francois.
Good evening, Sammy. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well. Are you okay?
You can hear I'm losing my voice.
You're not okay.
I'll be okay for a couple of minutes online. And good evening to all your listeners.
Good evening. I'll try not to keep you too long, Doctor. But tell us more about this initiative. It sounds quite amazing.
I think it's an important step, both globally but also in South Africa. And really, it's not trying to add necessarily a new program to what's happening in education. Excuse me. But actually, as you said, trying to identify the best practices that are already there. I think what we've seen is what we call the non-state sector. So these are what's happening in civil society, what companies are doing, what social entrepreneurs are doing, often in partnership with government. They've actually stepped up and said, the public sector needs support in a number of ways, and often poor kids, not only in South Africa, are slipping through the system or aren't getting the outcomes we require. So the CEI, the Center for Education Innovations, it's a public good resource available to everyone. It's online, and it's really has 3 main purposes: to showcase these innovations globally. So we're also going to be showcasing South African profiles so the world can see what's happening in South Africa, but also we can learn from what's happening in India, in Kenya, in Latin America. And the second purpose is really to analyze and see which of these are most effective, which are the ones we should be supporting to scale up. And finally, to connect these innovations to each other, but also to a framework. So what you'll find if you go onto the website, so www.educationinnovations.org, you'll find program profiles. So it just was launched last week, and there are 130 profiles from 26 countries. By the end of next year, there should be 1,000 or so of these around the world. You'll also find a research library, so you'll find some different policies in different countries that actually regulate what's happening in the sector. And so one of the main purposes, we don't actually know how many kids there are in out of school programs. We don't know how many kids there are in independent schools. We know that it's a very large sector and it's growing very quickly around the world, but we don't know much about it. So this is really the purpose of all of this. And I guess the third piece that's on the website you'll find is a funders platform. So this will develop over time, but there are initially a number of foundation partners, donors, and saying we're interested in this sector and we're interested in this as a way to actually improve quality education for marginalized and poor children. And so they're starting to back this. And again, we'll be able to connect some important programs that are achieving good outcomes with the funders to scale them up.
So basically, how is this going to work? Is it an online-based program that then will be implemented on the ground?
No, so this is really it's not going to be a standalone program. The purpose of this is really to identify what other people are doing. So we're not trying to create a new project. What we're trying to do is understand which of the programs that are already, and I'm sure you'll see every day in South Africa, there is an amazing project in education. But the question is, well, why are these projects not being scaled up? So the purpose of this is to try to identify which are the best programs having the best outcomes, so that the funders can know, the governments can know, the partners can know, these are the programs that need to be scaled. So So we're not necessarily trying to create a new program. What we're trying to create is a hub for knowledge to identify which of the best programs around the world and which are the best learnings and best practices that we can learn from.
So
not only from each other, but also globally.
So it's really a resource center.
Exactly.
The onus is still on the governments and the NGOs and the schools to make use of it in order to then implement them should they wish to.
Absolutely. And also it's about learning particular practices. So we're learning, some very interesting practices using technology, using different class sizes, using teacher success programs, using new scholarship mechanisms, which are having good outcomes. For example, there's a really interesting scholarship program in Mexico and Latin America. Can we use that form of financing to actually get kids through school? There could be another form of using technology in India that we could learn from. So it's definitely a center. But it also will aim to connect these people amongst each other and also to funders. So hopefully we'll also have some direct impact in actually supporting the strongest and most effective programs.
Now, your sister hubs are in East Africa and India.
That's
will
correct.
you be working closely with them? And why have these hubs been placed there? Is there a strategic reason for their location?
There is. This is just the first 3 hubs that have been identified. So the global secretariat for this actually is in Washington, D.C. with a group called Results for Development. And the work has actually been primarily supported by the UK Foreign Development Agency called DFID, the Department for Foreign International Development. And they're trying to navigate which of these programs should they be supporting. And as I said, these are the first 3 hubs that have been identified: South Africa, Kenya, India. We will be working closely with them. We will be getting to later in the year to share what we're learning from the different parts of the world, but also because these are 3 regions of the world initially identified as where this sector is very active. So, for example, in South Africa, we have many NGOs and social enterprises and companies working on out-of-school programs, on independent schools, on new technologies. So we're looking at new initiatives and well-established initiatives that are having real impact in a number of different areas. So it could be around student success programs, around teacher success programs, around financing mechanisms, around technology. And what we're trying to say in each of these areas, how can we identify the best programs?
And it sounds like a really holistic program, and I believe that the educators were really excited about its launch as a resource center. How do people access it, or is it available only to those who are registered educators or official NGOs?
To see, it's totally open. So that will be, a totally open program as a resource center. All the program profiles are there, and it's quite detailed. And I think what's useful about it is it explains to you what people actually do, as opposed to just describing the outcomes of the program, because I think part of this is understanding how do people actually make it work. Sometimes it's not always obvious, so we're actually trying to understand the approaches people take, and that's totally open for everyone, and it's a free available resource on the internet.
And lastly, your website, how does one find it?
So it's www.educationinnovations.org. It's the global website. Otherwise, they can navigate through the University of Cape Town's Graduate School of Business website, which is gsbuct.ac.za. And there's also a Facebook page and Twitter handle. But if you go to educationinnovations.org, you should be able to find everything that we've discussed.
Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Bonnici.
Thank you, Sammy.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's a senior lecturer and director at the University of Cape Town, the Bertha Center for Social Innovation and Entrepreneurship. You can contact him or find out more about this really exciting initiative at www.educationinnovations.org. I think if you're an educator or anybody who works with young people, it really is a great place to go as a resource, just to improve yourself. The more you know, the more you can give. It's 8:42.
My house means a party, means a friendship, means love, it means dedication, success, action, and it means God.
My house is a warm hub. My house is open to everybody. Everybody's welcome. As long as you're not drunk, you can come. There wouldn't be a new school without the old school. Here I am with Cabela, and that's what we do, reminding that gap. As much as